Hey guys, this is RC back with the quarter and semifinal edition of WWCF Radio for this season. We've just finished the sim tonight. I've just gotten the file posted and everything updated. So, kind of wanted to get into the game a little bit. First off, let's jump back to week 18 and let's kind of go through my selections. So for looking at the playoffs, I had picked Maryland. I went back to the video, and we have video documentation. So I had picked Maryland to get past Louisiana Monroe. Check. I had picked Ohio State. Overtime loss. 13 unanswered points for the Buckeyes. And congrats to Bowling Green in pulling the stunning 215 upset. Doesn't happen often, so kudos to them. I had picked Rutgers to get past Air Force, which they did handily. Ball State, I had called the upset, and it did happen. In fact, let me see. I want to see the box score. Ball State got two field goals, including the game winner, with 25 seconds left after a defensive touchdown. Those are hard to overcome, so congrats to Ball State. I was not sure that was going to happen, but it did, and I called it. I was hoping to get past Florida, but was not sold that that was going to happen. I have not done well against Harry and the Gators, but we were able to pull that out. So that one I got wrong, and I'll take that one gladly. I had called USC in this one. Boy, they let me down. Ole Miss rolled in this one. Well, not rolled, but 17 unanswered points. Excuse me, 17 unanswered points for the Bulldogs. Boy, Bulldogs, Mississippi State, for the Rebels. And let's see, Texas Tech. I had called that one. Actually, a much wider, bigger score than I thought. I actually was expecting a higher scoring game, but I was expecting it to be closer. And then I called the Oregon upset, or semi-upset, if you want to call it that. But, an 8-10 matchup. That one was close, down to the wire. Actually, Oregon got 10 unanswered points in the last 6 minutes to fall just 2 points short. So a 2-point conversion would not have helped them there. They needed, a field goal would have won it. So actually didn't do too bad in calling the games. This week's games, if we go down to the playoffs, Maryland edges Oklahoma. Very close game. Garvey, 466 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very close game. I mean, very close. Darren says that a balanced attack can give him trouble. 37 carries, 186 yards, and it was close. OU actually had a 4-point lead after 17 unanswered points. They got a field goal to make it a 1-point game, and then they got the game-winning touchdown with 1:19 left in the game. So, doesn't get much closer than that. Kudos to Oklahoma on a good shot against the number 1 and unbeaten Terrapins. Texas Tech edges Bowling Green by 9. Took a late run, 17 points in the fourth quarter, but Texas Tech gets to the semifinals. So congrats to Myril. Don't know if he's ever been this far. He talks a lot about where he's never gotten, but I don't know if he's ever made it to the semifinals. So he got one team, and I actually called the other team. Went to overtime. Ole Miss got 10 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, but then lost in overtime 33-30. So Rutgers and Texas Tech make the Final Four. So way to go, Myril. And Texas Ball State. Texas gets the win, 29-16. Great season to Ball State. Kudos to them to make it to the second round. from a mid-major conference. That doesn't happen often, so kudos to them. Also to Bowling Green. I mean, making the second round with that win over Ohio State. They would probably sign that coach to a lifetime contract at Bowling Green just on the basis of that one game and this season. All right, so what does that do for us moving forward? Well, we are in the Final Four, and here's our two playoff games. We have Texas and Maryland. You know, I mean, not to toot my own horn, Texas, one of the league powers, hadn't been here, you know, in as recently as I would like. But usually it's because we run into the likes of Maryland or Cal in the second round the last few years. And then also Maryland, you know, they're going for like their 200th consecutive national title, I think. That's what it seems like. They've just been utter dominance. Taking a look at that game, number 1 offense against the number 2 offense, and the number 8 defense against the number 4 defense. Biggest thing for me is I can never seem to move the ball on Maryland. But, you know, taking what he has said and the trouble that he had this week with Oklahoma, I might have to revisit some older game plans. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to figure something out because I think I'm like 0-12 against him. You know, in the last, you know, my last 12 games against him, and they haven't been pretty scores. So, you know, Maryland, an early 4-point favorite. He usually beats me by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I don't expect much difference. I wasn't expecting to get past Florida, so this is lagniappe for me. And you know, you guys know I'm a Cajun. Lagniappe is just a little something extra. But I expect Maryland to advance out of this one. Myrtle is going to be the focus this week of a lot of people, probably just checking out. We are going to have to invoke the so-called Rob rule because both teams are run by the same guy. He is going to have to pick a team. Now, that's going to be the interesting topic of conversation. I don't know which team he's going to pick. I've always thought that Texas Tech was, quote-unquote, his main team. But if you look at the stats here and the hot offensive player, do you go with the quarterback and the better statistics? I mean, Rutgers is a 1-point underdog, but should they really be? I don't know what the overall schedule looked like. So that's going to be interesting. You know, if you would have told me this at the beginning of the season, I would have said Texas Tech for sure. But Rutgers has the better ranking, only 1 loss, the better stats, the quarterback over a running back. I don't know. I don't know who he goes with. So this is a pick'em game either way, and I think whoever he picks to run as his human run team this week gets the edge. I think that's the advantage right there. And that's, we won't know that until he lets Darren know heading into the Tuesday sim. And then, of course, he'll only up. So for those of you that are relatively new to the league that might be listening to this, the Rob rule is named after Rob Roberson, the California coach. And there is a rule on the books that if you are in control of 2 teams at any point, even during the regular season, which shouldn't ever happen because you should never schedule yourself during the season, and you can't have 2 teams in the same conference. So, you know, typically it's only going to be a playoff. That's the only way I can think it would happen. But if you have 2 of your teams facing each other head-to-head, you can only control one of the teams that week. The other team will be put on computer control for that week and that week only. But that way you cannot make it just keeps it on the up and up, that you can't make any negative adjustments for one team against the other team to throw the game basically. And Rob was the first coach Not under suspicion. Don't even think that. He was just the first guy that it happened to, and so the rule was already on the books. We had already thought that out before. It's been on the books, but Rob was the first coach that it actually happened to. Hence us calling it the Rob rule, and so now Myril will have to address that to the national media. And honestly, if I don't hear any statements from Clyde, or maybe they get a long distance interview with Dig down in Africa. I think he's still in prison in Africa, but they've been kind of quiet this year, and strangely so. And we do miss them. So hopefully those guys make a return to the journalistic airwaves this week. It'll be interesting to see some discussion on not just one but two Myril-led teams making it to the Final Four. I'm going to call that one a toss-up. Whichever team he controls, I think, wins. And I call Maryland over Texas. And I'm going to call Maryland for the national champs. Now, of course, if they don't make it, fingers crossed and, toes crossed that I can upset him, but that ain't happening. Then, we'll revisit that next week. But I'm calling Maryland for the win here, the human control team for the win here, and then Maryland to bring home the trophy once again. Congrats to everybody on a great season. Again, special shouts out to Ball State and Bowling Green coming out of the mid-majors and pulling those first-round upsets over the number 2 and number 4 seeded teams respectively. Huge accomplishments for those programs and the coaches of those programs. Congrats to our Final 3 owners, not Final 4, because way to go, Myril. And Myril, as mind-blowing as it is, I don't think he's ever been to a final. I know he said all the time that he rarely makes it out of the first round, so he's guaranteed a spot in the national championship game, so congrats to him there. All right, guys, well, that's enough ramble for tonight. We'll get this posted up for you guys to listen to, and don't forget the sim goes on Tuesday for the Final Four. Darren will be running that one. And then whichever one of us loses will be running the championship game on the following Thursday, on next Thursday. That will be, well, probably me. And we can try to do a live stream of that on Twitch if you guys want to do that. I'll put up I may put up a poll on that tonight just to see if who would be interested in showing up for that. Last time I tried to do it live, nobody showed up, so I just kind of called it off and ran the sim because it does take a little while to do. So anyway, I'll put a poll up for that, see if anybody's interested, and we'll do that today because that gives the rest of the weekend and the beginning of next week for people to think about it in their schedules. And now, naturally, I can only speak if I run that championship sim. That's on Darren. Darren, I don't know if he does Twitch, but he may be able to do something live on the forum where he types out the game or the results or something to that effect, because he's done that before as well. But I have to leave that up to him, and we'll know who's going to be running the sim after the championship, after the game, Maryland-Texas game on Tuesday. So you guys have a great one. Thanks for a great season. Don't forget to check into the poll or the thread online about next season. If you're returning or not, we hope everybody will come back and come back for our 27th season here at Sim Nation. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Bye.